If you're a marketer who's in charge of delivering leads to a sales team that then closes deals that actually become revenue for the company, then you need to know your average lead value. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why that's important and how you can calculate it, and then what to do once you've actually figured the number out. So you might see it like, well, I'm in marketing, I'm in charge of leads, my job is to deliver leads. Leads are my goal. Leads are my key performance indicator. That's what I track. That's the number I want to make go up. And that's fine and not wrong, but knowing your average lead value can allow you to turn leads into estimated revenue, and having that kind of number to work with opens up possibilities that aren't there with leads. The simplest and most direct is that you can actually talk about dollars when you're presenting the results of your campaigns or the projections that you're making. And these are much more interesting to your audience than talking about leads. I promise, no matter who it is, they'd rather hear about dollars than hear about leads, much less things like site impressions or clicks. So this lets you talk about a more interesting metric to everyone else in the company. And then the other thing it gives you is the opportunity to do comparisons between different campaigns. You can actually look at the ROI of campaigns in a way that's kind of hard to do, right? Like if you spent $10,000 on Google Ads and got 7 leads, well, maybe that's amazing and maybe that's terrible. And this number will tell you which case you're in. So you know which channels to focus on, you know what kind of goals you need when you're trying to validate a new channel, and you have a good sense of the overall value of your mix of approaches. All right, so how do you figure it out? You literally just need to multiply together two numbers, and here they are. You need to know your average deal value, and you need to know your lead to sale conversion rate. That's just two numbers. One of them is in dollars per time period, and one of them is a percent. And if you multiply them together, you're done. But you might look at these two numbers and think, well, I don't have a clue what either of those is. And that's quite common, and that is okay. It's possible you can go pull these from a tool like HubSpot or Salesforce if you have access, if that's what you're using. But I want to call out at this point that the best way to go about this is to bring in a friend from the sales team. Get somebody to do this with you. They don't have to be super senior. They just need to have an interest in using data to do their job better, just like you. If you can find someone on the sales team, they will help you with some of the judgment calls that are coming up as I explain how to pull these numbers. Let's go do it. Okay, average deal value. So like I said, this is going to be dollars per time period. So we can start with the time period. What does it make sense to look at here? A good default is just to say per year. So for every deal that your sales team has closed recently, more on that in a second, you're going to look at, okay, how much is this customer paying the company per year? And you're going to make a list of all those values, dollars per year, dollars per year, dollars per year. You're going to add up all the entries. You're going to divide by the number of customers you looked at to take an average. And that's it. That's your average deal value. You don't have to look at the value per year. It might make sense for your business to look at monthly revenue, or if you do one-off projects, then it just makes sense to look at the total deal size, and that's your number. But whatever you pick is going to determine the units of your final answer. Your average lead value is going to be X dollars per year, or per month, or per customer, etc. The other thing you have to decide when you're trying to figure out average deal value is what set of deals are you going to look at? How far back are you going to look? So I think a reasonable default is just to look at the last few months, because none of these numbers is going to be one true number that exists in space and never changes. These are targets that move over time. So you want to keep a more recent read on how this is going for your company. So if you have plenty of deals in the last few months, at least, I don't know, a dozen or a couple dozen, then just looking at the last 3 months is probably enough to give you a read for how much deals are worth. If you need to go back further to get more data, just go back further, and this is a great question to ask your sales friend for their perspective on. Great, I'm going to assume you have figured out your average deal value, and now you just need to know your lead to sale conversion rate. So this is going to be a fraction. On the top is going to be the number of deals that were closed won. In other words, they became a customer. And on the bottom is going to be the total number of leads. So because this is a fraction, we have to note that making the denominator bigger actually leads to a lower value, and we want to be careful not to do that artificially. So we have to be careful about the time period we're asking about when we go calculate this number. Specifically, it's going to depend on how long it takes to close a deal. You might have a sales team that works with clients for months before they finally get the actual paper signed and the deal becomes closed won. And if that's the case, You don't want to look at the last week's data because there's going to be a bunch of brand new leads that just got opened. There's no way they could have closed yet, but they may. So you want to go back far enough in time and choose a time period where most of the deals, say 90% of them, are closed one way or the other. They're closed won, they're closed lost. That's going to give you an accurate read of the conversion rate for how many actual leads get turned into sales. And so again, you're just going to look at the total number of leads that were brought in this time period, and then the numerator is going to be how many of those leads actually became customers. What you get out is a fraction or a percent, and that is your lead to sale conversion rate. So back to the top, you now have your two numbers, multiply them together, and what you come out with is dollars per year or month or whatever you did, and that's the value of a lead. Now, of course, not every single lead that comes through is going to be worth exactly this much. It's an average. But this gives you an idea for what a lead is worth to the company, and I'm willing to bet it's a little bit higher than you expected. And that's going to change how you think about several things. So next I want to talk about what you should do with this number. The first thing you should do is revise or create your own conception of what a reasonable cost per lead is. Now that you have this number, you know how much a lead is worth. You should be able to think about, okay, well, here's how much I'm willing to spend to get a lead. And that's probably a conversation with leadership because they may be in a mode where they're willing to spend more than the lead is worth, or they may need to make a certain margin to have profits. And so that's a decision for the group to make. But you can go ahead and at least come up with a number that seems reasonable. Now that you've got this number, you can revisit your marketing channels and spend with new eyes. You can think about how much am I spending on ads? What am I getting from it? From each campaign, from each channel, from each platform. And all of a sudden you know what's working and what's not, at least based on your tentative cost per lead. You may have to come back and revise these, but that's a good thing. Another fun thing you can do with this lead value is you can enter it into Google Analytics, and once you create the goal that has a value attached, that unlocks features like page value, where now when you're looking in Google Analytics, it'll actually tell you based on how many people who became leads came to a given page, what's this page worth? You can rank your pages by this newly created metric, and it gives you a new view on your website activity. And then the last and most important thing to do with this magical number that you just created is to go shop it around and show it to people and seek input. Some people are probably going to look at this number and say, there's no way, that's too high, I can't believe it. And you can show them how you got it. And then they have the opportunity to say, oh, well, this is not how I would approach that data set. Here's what I'm thinking. And this is all a good thing. You want people to buy in. You want people to be interested. You want to land at a number that everyone more or less believes. And it might not be your first number. So if you're just getting started, just go pick numbers. Just go look at 1 year's worth of value per customer. Just go look at the last 3 months worth of deals and make an average. Just pick numbers, come up with something, show your work, and show it around and see what people have to say. And now that you're talking about revenue in terms of your marketing campaigns, you will get attention that you have not gotten before now. That's it. I hope this is helpful. If there's anything that wasn't clear, or if there's something you want to hear more about, please leave a comment. I would love to hear it. I'm just a small YouTube channel doing this because I hope somebody finds it useful. Thanks.